Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Offing Podcast. I'm Ashaki Jackson, publisher of The Offing and your podcast host. On today's episode, short story author Pete Hsu reads an excerpt from his short story Sunder, a story of youth at play exploring belonging, death, and maybe love. Here is Pete reading from Sunder.
Excerpt from Sunder. We run after him. It feels good, our bodies stretched out, stride on stride. It feels as if we are flying over the grass, like sparrows skimming over the plains. I feel the tight pull of a smile on my face. I'm laughing, and Tommy is laughing. Greta is laughing. Even Charlie has a big smile on him, seeming truly happy. All of us out and about in a sheer joy. We go on like this for what feels like a long, long time, as if it will never stop. We then get past where the grass has dried out into a narrow dirt and rock trail, crossing the border between the old lady's land and the woods. I do not feel as the decline slopes down until Greta passes me. Lifting up her skirt tails, she shouts out for us to race. She has the easy lead. Tommy breaks off close behind, saying how he can see her knickers. I get the giddy up too and catch them. I am the faster runner of us. Greta is none too coordinated on her own feet, and Tommy flat-footed. Charlie, of course, declines to race. Halfway down, I get past Greta, then Tommy. He bumps me from behind. I stagger some, but do not fall. My two good feet to keep me up. Greta laughs at us both. Her hair comes loose and flings about, and she gets a lead, and I let her go. But Tommy keeps after. The hills decline, leveling even. I want to show you all something, says Tommy, still walking at a slow but long stretched pace. He pulls on my sleeve for me to come along, and I make a show to pull my arm back, but I do not really mind it, staring a quick bit into his clear blue eyes, his golden yellow hair tossed about into them. He lets me go. Come on, China. I step along, and Tommy jogs ahead. Charlie hurries up to be closest to him, and then Greta follows in her blue dress, no shoes, black hair catching sun rays from high canopy. Tommy turns back and smiles at her. Greta looks at him and smiles too, and then looks away as if shy. I worry that Greta likes Tommy more than me. I worry too that Tommy likes her more. The two of them, paired up, look as pretty as bluebirds and wildflowers in a spring field after rain. I run up. I pass Charlie, get between Tommy and Greta. I reach hold of Greta's hand, which she takes for just a bit and then lets go, saying, "You're sweaty." We all cross into the woods proper. It gets thick within a stride. All turns quiet. It then seems all the world is just us four kids. Us four and the Lord above and the big wild earth below. But no other folks, none whatsoever. We walk and listen. Tommy says for us to trust our ears for weather and direction and for animals. He says of this place that it is all ours, the rustle and chitter, water and wind, the long, long stretch away from town proper. The marked path fades. Lost in it, I walk the slowest. More so than Tommy and Greta, I fall a step behind, and then another. It is as if the woods make me want to slow down, not to rush. Tommy does not wait. He keeps on pace as fast as he can, turns back to me in stride, yells at me and then at Charlie to hurry up. I ignore him for a bit, not wanting to break from my wonder. "Do you know the way?" says Charlie. "Tommy knows," I say. Then Tommy gets ahead, and I slap at Charlie to come along, and we run after him. When we get to, Tommy is singing a song about him and Greta that he recently took a liking to. Tommy and Greta sitting in a tree. We all know the tune, how it goes on, about them kissing and then loving and then wedding and then a carriage. Charlie starts singing along too. Charlie, is taken by song, but Tommy tells him to quit. No one said for you to sing. Charlie stops looking mad some, but not saying anything. And Tommy, as if somehow knowing Charlie's got hurt feelings, says, "Go on, Charles, you sing it better anyhow." Charlie skips a bit and goes on with the song, singing it something proper nice, a swell of hope for a place and time that we might someday catch hold of. Greta dances along with a little strut, a two-step, kicking up the dirty hem of her skirt. Seeing this, I try to sing along too, louder than Charlie, though nowhere near as good. Tommy shushes me and Charlie both, then says to Greta, "Miss Greta Jung, will you marry me?" Greta looks like she is actually blushing, cheeks turned pink and eyes wetted over. She puts a hand out, which Tommy takes and kisses, sloppily. She says, "I do, I will." And Charlie applauds, playing like he is a preacher, declaring them man and wife. I cannot help myself. I shove Tommy hard in the back. He stumbles but does not fall. "What's gotten into you, China?" he says. I stand up tall, feeling challenged. I thumb my nose at him, complain that I am getting bored of the woods, though I'm not really. Tommy knows that I am straight away in love with Miss Greta. As soon as we saw her, driving her daddy's coach, long black hair shining in the sunlight, I had said to Tommy, with no shame at all, that I was going to marry that girl, and Tommy had said right back not if he married her first, which troubled me and goes on to trouble me, not knowing if he's pulling my chain or being for real, what with Tommy being the most beautiful boy in all of Strauss, and me being something far from that. As it is, Tommy goes on grinning. He makes a posture like he's going to jump at me to wrestle, but he does not. Instead, we just play jabbing into the air between us. I do not hit him, but I warn him that I'm ready to crack him hard if he gets close, that I do not care if I get beat up in a tussle. I will not demean my honor to him. He then straightens up. He pats me on the ass and then keeps on towards where he is taking us. Greta pats me on the head, says a kindness about my fine, soft hair. White folks' hair, she calls it. Then we all four are back on our way. Tommy changes the tune, singing the old Mountain Dew. He does not know the words, just dee, diddly, diddle dum, the rare old Mountain Dew. Charlie joins right quick, and then we are all singing along. As we go now, there's a scatter of twigs underneath our feet. We come up on the border between our property and Charlie's daddy's land. The spot that marks it is what Tommy calls the Christ Cross, on account of Charlie and his daddy's surname being Christ. The cross because of two fir tree logs dropped on top of each other in an X. Tommy goes under the trees first. He slaps each trunk as he ducks, tears a small bit of bark off, crumples it like dust, and tosses it aside. Greta goes next, then Charlie, and then I go last. Once we all get through, the woods seem dimmer, a wind, a cold spot. Some spirit fills the air, and my arms turn gooseflesh. "China," says Charlie, "you think we should go on home now?" "What are you talking about?" I say. "All of this is your land. You are home." "I don't know," he says. "Don't you think we should go on back to the old lady's house?" "We got all day," I say, not turning to look at him, mad that he thinks I'm yellow, like he is. The old lady will be up on that roof till dusk. We then come out from the brush into the clear. There is no trail or marking out past this way. Wading through the tall grass, we get around from the northwest hill peak to a wild and mangled oak tree at the top, its limbs sprung out in every direction, longer sideways than it is tall. We walk slow past it, acorns and leaves underneath our feet. I slow and watch them turn the corner and disappear. I stop all the way. I stand for what seems like a long, long time just looking at things, taking it in some. It seems to me, even as I have grown up here, this world is still strange. All of Marioneer, all of Strauss, the woods, my own family even. I do not know what it is, this feeling of being lost wherever I am. I ponder it as the sunlight catches dust in the air, shiny circles of white and yellow and red in my eyes. The shadows, too, and a breeze to bend the dead and long yellow grass into the beyond. What it is, I cannot say. I hear a shout. I blink hard and once again hurry along around that same corner, finding Tommy stooped over a rotted-out oak tree, having pushed it up by his shoulder to get at underneath. Greta leaning in next to him. Charlie is there too, somehow gotten past me as I was in reverie. Look, 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 says Tommy. I come over behind them. I try, but I cannot get a good view of the brush and thistle in the way. Come here, China. You're going to like this, says Tommy, stepping aside and pulling me in front. He holds me from behind and I look down, not sure what I'm seeing. A dug-out pit of black, brown, and gray mass, the same color as dirt, but seething, slowly, slow, as if alive. Whatever it is, it makes my stomach turn over and pull on itself, and I push Tommy to let me go. He holds tight, and I feel a cold coming in from the pit, a real cold, like a winter wind off the lakeshore. I get loose of Tommy and stagger backwards, knocking Greta down and then stumbling over her, still backing away on my hands and ass. Look at you, Seb. It's snakes, says Tommy, laughing and clapping his hands. A whole nest of prairie adders. Tommy reaches out, motioning then for Charlie to take his hand. Charlie hesitates. He is not at all keen to go along. I feel for him, saying, You don't got to do anything you don't want to. It's fine, says Tommy. A lot of them's just babies. He gestures for Charlie to get on with it and come up close with him. Charlie takes his hand, and Tommy pulls him up close to see clear. I look in again, too, see the lot of adder snakes, something like 100, 200, feels somehow more than that, 1,000,000. 1,000,000 snakes slow crawling over and under, top and bottom of one another, seeming unaware of us kids lording over them. Watch this, says Tommy. He slowly reaches his off hand into the pit. Tommy, no, says Greta. Greta grabs hold around Tommy's waist with both arms, tries to pull him away from the snakes. He wrenches free and then carefully gets her hands off of him. It's fine, he says, calm and happy, both hands stretched out to keep Greta back from getting in his way. Y'all step back and just watch. We stand, still and steady, and Tommy goes toward the snake pit again. He puts his off hand out again, and again puts that hand into the pit, little by little into the mess of it, slow, pushing in until he is up to his elbow and moving his arm in a twisting up and down motion, mimicking the adders. They don't even care, he says. They think my hand's one of them. One small snake crawls onto him, wraps itself around his elbow. I see it. It is as he said, a baby prairie adder, a little gray and black rattlesnake, arrow-headed, a steady rattling tail humming along like a native turn drum. It makes its way up almost to Tommy's neck, flicks its tongue at Tommy's cheek. Can you believe it? He says, giggling. I stand as still as I can manage. The adder hisses as if just at me alone. its spine twisted and rising. It stretches itself up and towards me, half of its length in the air. It brings its face to mine, nose to nose. Beady black eyes on beady black eyes. It hisses again, tongue stuck and flicking. I feel a daze over me, a spell cast over me. The adder flicks its tongue and then turns back to Tommy. But Tommy's not looking. He's making eyes at Greta. And the adder tenses, hisses, bares its fangs and rears itself, looking to bite. Without thinking at all, I swing my arm up and over and grab hold of the adder. I hold it tight at its middle. It unwraps from Tommy, hissing, its length split in half, dangling from my fist. I hold it up, feeling for a moment triumphant. Then it strikes at my face quick. I turn in time and it misses. I go to throw it onto the ground, but before I let go, the snake turns and strikes at me again, this time true. It lands its fangs, clean, onto my near hand, down hard, just past the wrist. The burn of its venom hits like nothing I've ever felt. Charlie screams out and then turns and runs, fast as he can, back in the direction we all came from. I try to shout out at him to stop, but no words come out of my mouth. I look at Tommy. He fixes his gaze on the adder. It slithers on the ground to get away. With focus, Tommy watches. Then with a sudden quick, he reaches down and snatches at it, picks it up, holds it by its tail end, and flings its head hard onto the ground 2-3 times, and then drops it. It writhes around, twisting back and forth, trying to right itself. In the dirt, it is so small, barely a foot's length. Tommy stomps on it hard with his heel. It flips over onto his back and then back on the stomach. He stomps again, harder, again, 3-4 times. Somehow the adder seems as if it cannot die, cannot even be hurt, none at all. Then Tommy's last kick lands, grinds down on the snake's neck. We hear the bones crack and meat squish, and then it is dead. Greta picks up the little snake's body, dangling limp, but somehow perfect. She holds it up to me, this beautiful dead prairie adder between us. Greta stares as if she sees something terribly terrible, her eyes wide open, scared of something. I think at first it is the snake that is bothering her, this monster from the underworld. But then I see that it's me she's troubled by. "Sebadoh," she says, "you need to get home." She puts her hand up to touch her own arm, as if it is hers that got bit. I bring my off hand to the bit one, the bit hand feeling tight and fat and burning to the touch. "I've been hurt," I say. She takes my good hand, and we all run home.
Pete Hsu has authored the short story collection If I Were the Ocean, I'd Carry You Home, and the experimental chapbook There Is a Man. Both are available now at peterzhsu.com. Thanks for listening to the Offing Podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on new episodes. The Offing is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we rely on literature lovers and art enthusiasts like you to keep the lights on. Please support The Offing and this podcast by subscribing to our Patreon. Look for the link in our show notes below, or visit patreon.com/theoffing. Take The Offing wherever you go with one of our fabulous tote bags, bookmarks, pencils, or logo coffee mugs. Shop at wearepastdue.com/store/The Offing. The Offing Podcast is a Past Due production and was recorded at Past Due Studios in Los Angeles, California. This episode was produced by Christopher Chase Godwin. Katrina Mohn is the executive producer. Thanks again for listening to the Offing Podcast.